Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a 2020 Hunger Games prequel novel written by, of course, Suzanne Collins. The story follows a young Coriolanus Snow and his involvement in the 10th annual Hunger Games. I'm going to start off with my non-spoiler thoughts, and I will get into spoilers, but I'm going to give you a warning before I do that. I finally finished this book last night, and I'm not a literature critic, but I have been a fan of this series since middle school. I was actually pretty obsessed with it in middle school, and, these may have been the first books that I read completely by choice and genuinely enjoyed reading. I loved all of the movies that were based on them, and me and my friends would sit around at lunch arguing and debating about which of us would last the longest if we were thrown into the games. Something about the concept of the Hunger Games just captured my imagination, and in a lot of ways still does. So naturally, I was pretty pumped for this book. I had it pre-ordered, especially because I don't have much going on right now. The fact that Lionsgate already announced that there's going to be a movie based on this book got me even more excited. I wasn't too surprised because The Hunger Games is one of Lionsgate's only consistently high-grossing franchises. But, fun fact, the director of the last 3 Hunger Games, as well as this upcoming movie, he went to the college that I go to, so I enjoyed this book, even though it's not necessarily that good. First of all, it's the longest in the series by about 100 pages. The others are about 350 or 400, and this one is well over 500 pages. And that's despite the fact that it has a less interesting story to tell. The story is split into 3 parts, and the first 2 are pretty well paced, but the last one kind of grinds the pacing to a halt. I'll talk more about the third part in the spoiler section. In the story, we get to see what the Hunger Games looked like in the early years, before they became what we see in the 74th and 75th Hunger Games. Everything's less advanced, and they're still trying to figure out how to get this to be something people like watching. We get to see Coriolanus make his contributions to what the games would become many decades before he would be president. Coriolanus is a senior at the academy, and he and some of his fellow students are tasked with being mentors to the 24 tributes. He's assigned the District 12 girl Lucy Gray, and we get to see them navigating the Hunger Games and developing in their relationship along the way. Another key difference between this book and the other 3 is that this one is written in third person while the other 3 are written in first person. I happen to prefer third-person writing, that's just a personal preference, but I don't think Collins took full advantage of the possibilities of third-person writing. This may have been one reason the book is so long, since every time she mentions the main character, instead of saying I, she has to type out Coriolanus. Also, 2 of the main characters' names end in anus, which is just kind of interesting. Since we're not completely bound to the main character, it could have been interesting to potentially give us a few chapters from Lucy Gray's perspective. I think that would have made the Hunger Games significantly more interesting, but instead, we're completely restricted to seeing the parts of the game that Coriolanus sees, which isn't much, since he's watching the games on a screen, and since the games are less advanced at this point, he doesn't even get to see most of what happens. The tributes spend most of the game hiding, and most of what we hear about the game is just watching an empty screen. Again, this could have been avoided by giving us a couple chapters from Lucy Gray's perspective. The last thing I'll mention before jumping into spoilers is that our main character isn't that interesting or likable to follow. It's essentially a villain origin story, but he never feels all that conflicted about anything. He knows he wants power from the beginning, and mostly stays the same. He's pretty much just an egotistical asshole, but since we know he becomes the evil President Snow, there's not much learning or growing, or, there's no room to grow for him, really, in this novel. To wrap up my spoiler-free thoughts, I still come out positive at the end of this book, despite all of my complaints. That mainly comes from the fact that I love the world that this story is set in, and there are enough entertaining and interesting parts to make it a fun read. I also find Colin's very melodramatic and self-indulgent writing style charming, in a way. So if you're a fan of the Hunger Games series at all, I recommend checking it out if you're interested. It's not great, but it's definitely a fun read for a fan of the franchise. Alright, I am now going to move into spoilers, so if you have not read this book yet and you want to, that's your warning. So let's talk about that ending. As soon as the Hunger Games ended and I saw that more than a third of the book was still left, I was like, okay, where are we going here? And I was very skeptical about the District 12 Peacekeeper thing, but overall, I didn't mind it. There were just some serious missed opportunities in terms of characterization. So I liked Sejanus a lot. I thought he was a good foil to Coriolanus, and his ending was certainly very tragic. But their relationship could have been more interesting if Coriolanus ever liked Sejanus at all. He's happy to see a familiar face in the districts at first, but he spends the rest of the story as annoyed at him as ever. His decision to sell him out with the Jabberjay recording would have felt much more important if we actually felt that these two were like brothers, instead of Coriolanus just lying about it and secretly hating him the whole time. What if he had to make the decision to sell out his actual best friend who actually was like a brother to him? Yeah, he goes back to his room and cries, and that's a nice moment, but it would have felt much more impactful if we ever felt like Coriolanus liked the guy. Now on to the romantic relationship. I liked aspects of Coriolanus and Lucy Gray's relationship. Coriolanus is a very possessive and jealous boyfriend, which suits the character but also makes the relationship less cute and more creepy in some ways. And then they decide they want to kill each other in a matter of minutes. Here's where the pacing comes back into play. Part 3 is so long, but the ending, the most important part, is so ridiculously rushed. He decides he doesn't want to go out and live in the woods in a matter of, I guess, hours within the world of the story. It just happens so quick. Maybe we could have seen them running for, I don't know, at least a day. It felt so rushed. Coriolanus only runs away with Lucy Gray because he feels he has absolutely no other choice. He fully believes that he will be caught and hanged for killing the mayor's daughter if he stays. I loved the idea of him being offered an officer position just as he was about to leave. I thought Collins was setting up an actual hard choice for him to make, but he never feels like he has a choice. And then the second he sees that gun in the shack with no internal conflict, he knows what he has to do. Attacking Lucy Gray should have been an impossibly hard choice for him, or we could have built up to him being cold-blooded and cruel throughout the story. Instead, he's just kind of the same asshole he was at the beginning, but now he's just more okay with killing. Unlike Sejanus, I actually bought into Coriolanus' and Lucy Gray's relationship, which made their sudden decision to kill each other feel weird and unearned. Why did Lucy Gray still love and want to run away with a guy who she believed would kill her and leave her if he had any other choice? All that negativity aside, I didn't hate the ending. I like the idea of watching Coriolanus decide to dedicate his life to the pursuit of power no matter the cost. I just wish we could have seen that change happen in him gradually, instead of him just being a power-hungry jerk from the beginning. I do like the detail of Coriolanus being referred to as Snow in the epilogue for the first time, signifying the end of his journey into becoming the man who would become president of Panem. Despite all my criticisms, I really do think there's enough in here for a Hunger Games fan to enjoy to make this worth reading. It's fun, and despite some boring parts that go on for too long, I'd probably have to give this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So, thank you for tuning into this video. Sorry if you can hear my cat meowing. For anyone who stumbled upon this video and has not seen my channel before, I mostly talk about movies, not books, but go check that stuff out because there's a lot I'm proud of on this channel. And if you're here for the movies, you know, don't worry, plenty of movie content is on the way. So thank you for checking this out. Please continue to be safe, wear a mask, hang in there, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.